Another day, another music enthusiast. So today I'm going to show you guys my physical music collection from childhood up until now. I'm going to show you little Gerald here, but basically near the end we'll get to my S tier second favorite group of artists, and then we'll end with my two favorite artists. I'm excited to show you guys who I am through music, and also that's my physical TBR that I did not show you guys earlier. If you are here for music, I would also like to share my love of books with you, and if you're here because you watched my bookshelf tour, I'm very excited to share my love of music with you. So let's jump into my childhood first and what raised me in my childhood. What do you think is first? Well, it is none other than Spirit, Stallion of the Word I Can Never Say. This was my favorite animated movie growing up. Hans Zimmer is the GOAT for doing all of this music, and yeah, I actually have not seen this movie since I was young, probably not since I was a teenager, so maybe it's time to revisit this. But I used to clip-clop like a horse around my house while I would listen to this album. And Get Off of My Back was one that I would always sassily sing along to. So there you go. The other thing that raised me, Nugget's here, Camp Rock, guys, Camp Rock. This is where my love of Joe Jonas really flourished. What just fell out of there? Bonus content. Yeah, I think I also had the bonus content on the DVD as well, but honestly, this entire album slaps. This Is Me and Gotta Find You are obviously iconic, and the duet at the end is iconic. But there's also Peggy's song, right? And there's also, of course, the Jonas Brothers song, Play My Music. That was my anthem, okay? Because music is in my soul. That's why we're here. But, oh my gosh, his long hair. Shoot, what was the other comment I was gonna make? So much pressure being on here. Trying to be in time with the video, but I remember I was watching the premiere with my best friend at the time, and we threw popcorn at Demi because I was jealous that she was being serenaded by Joe. And then I remember that the Burning Up music video premiered right afterwards, and that was super iconic because Selena Gomez was in it. That was peak Disney Channel for me, and I feel like it kind of went downhill from there. So then moving into the two artists that really raised me, the first being Relient K. I am a Midwest gal through and through, and this case is clearly severely beat up. Very beat up. But I have a ton of their albums and a ton of my other band that raised me's albums, and you could probably guess if you also are familiar with and love Relient K, it's Switchfoot. But most of these were my older sisters, and I didn't want them to be tossed away, so I kept all of them, obviously. So plenty of things to talk about here with Relient K. This album is The Anatomy of Tongue in Cheek, which has the song Pressing On that I would play on repeat. Yep, that was my hyperfixation on this album. And sorry for the focus here. I recorded this first little bit and was partially in the video, so it kept focusing on me rather than the albums, but never fear, the majority of this video will be in focus. But bear with me as I point to songs on Relient K's albums, and you have no idea what they are. I don't even remember what they are now because I recorded this a bit ago. So this one is, I want to say it's Jefferson Airplane, but that, no, the real title is Two Lefts Don't Make a Right, but Three Do. And this has a great combination of songs. It has Pink Tux to the Prom. Does it also have it has College Kids, it has Mood Rings, it has Jefferson Airplane, which is why I wanted to call that the album. But what's their super popular song that everyone knows? I'm drawing a blank. Embarrassing. But anyway, I think most of their popular songs are on this album, or which ironically I don't have, which seems weird that we wouldn't have their most popular album, but maybe it's at my parents' house. I don't know. Relient K gave me my love for wordplay and puns, and they also gave me permission to really feel all of my feelings, including anger, and I feel like that's a game changer as a kid to really see those emotions modeled in a healthy way. Here we have the only EP, I believe, that I physically have, which is Apathetic EP, and I love all of the artwork on here. It's super pretty with the umbrella and all the different umbrella designs. There's only a handful of tracks, but it's very thoughtful EP, and again with the wordplay, apathetic way to be, a pathetic way to be, and that is definitely my favorite track off of this EP. It's hard to really describe what these songs mean to me because it kind of just feels baked into my DNA in a way where I'm like, what do you mean? It's like having to explain why I breathe. Moving on, this is an iconic album. I feel like I'm literally saying iconic for every single one, but this is 5-7 years ago, and the tracks that really stand out for me is they have this stupid song called Crayons Can Melt on Us for All I Care, and it's just, I wasted 10 seconds of your life, so you're welcome. And then it goes into a really long epic song, literally it's like 12-13 minutes, called Deathbed, and it's basically the gospel, and John Foreman of Switchfoot actually ends that song. This obviously is not the original case, but in here we have their iconic, once again, Christmas album, which is Let It Snow Baby, Let It Rain Dear. And this is a really good amalgamation of really iconic Christmas songs, but also some really heartfelt Christian songs, including one that featured on the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe B-side soundtrack. Fun fact. This one is my favorite Relient K album, which is Forget and Not Slow Down. And this, I believe, was a time in Matt, the lead singer's life, where he just had a lot of things not pan out the way he wanted to. And he wrote a lot of this in isolation or very near isolation. There are so many tracks on here that just are deeply emotive and deeply wrestling through hardship, both with God and trying to run from God, but like being unable to run from God. You know, I think that's something a lot of people can really resonate with. And so if you're going through any type of mental hardship, I would highly recommend you listen to this album. There's not a track on it that's not great, and even just the way he addresses the devil in one of the songs is something that I think about a lot. It's very vivid, and it's very contemplative, and the track Therapy was my favorite when I was little, which is still a fantastic track today. And I remember in my band class in middle school, we had like a listening day where we all got to submit one of our favorite songs and listen to everyone's favorite songs, and so I got to share Therapy with everyone, and I don't think anyone else cared. It was way less poppy and certainly way less upbeat than everyone else's songs, me being a little introspective emo child, but I was so ecstatic that I got to share that song with everyone else, even if I was the only one who cared. And I can't even imagine what my music director was thinking, like, wow, she's just like really deep in her emotions, I guess. But yeah, highly recommend that song. And for those of you who do know who my very significant favorite band is, Relient K and Switchfoot are also huge foundations for their music as well. So if you've not in-depth listened to either of these bands' discographies, I would highly, highly recommend. This one was a cover album, Relient K did, and it's missing the disc, unfortunately. But you have Everybody Wants to Rule the World, which is so fun. I know Dr. Worm's on here, but I forget what else is on there. But anyway, moving on, we have Collapsible Lung. This reminds me of college. I believe my other sister bought this one. But this one is kind of like much more poppy than they usually did, and I really like the title track. I also really liked Lost Boy, just a lot more upbeat vibes. And then I believe this is their most recent CD, is Air for Free, and I think this is definitely my favorite of their like newer albums. This one is a bit more chilled back, but still rock like they normally do. I didn't even say until now what their genre is. Both of these bands are very rocky. So now we're cutting, so the focus should be good now. So let's get into Switchfoot. We have an illegally burned CD from my sister, The Legend of Chin. So there you go. I actually don't think I've listened to that one very much. Learning to Breathe is the album that reminds me of childhood, among others, like Spirit. But this one reminds me of like getting into reading and enjoying my older sister's music and thinking I'm cool. This one has iconic songs like Learning to Breathe, I Dare You to Move, and all of the songs that you'll find on the cheesy Nicholas Sparks movie, A Walk to Remember. If you know, you know. If you don't, you should watch it. It's really corny. And yeah, this one is like peak early 2000s music. Rock meets the beginnings of some techno influences. And I forget which one I just pointed to, but there's just a lot of iconic songs on here that remind me of car rides to and from basketball games because my dad was a basketball coach growing up. And then we get into The Beautiful Letdown. This one was recreated, I want to say the fall of 2023, both by Switchfoot doing their own version, like so many artists have, due to Taylor Swift. And then they also had a cover album, so the Jonas Brothers covered the title track, and then there were a ton of other artists who covered songs, including John Bellion, Dayglow, Owl City, Tyler Joseph, and more. I really like this photo with John and his hat here. I think you'll notice that he likes a lot of hats, and he wears a lot of different hats on their different albums, which is fun. But this album is very pensive and introspective. I would say they're very similar to Relient K in their contemplations, but Relient K is a bit more wordplay heavy, and Switchfoot's more just like gonna nail ya right in the heart with a gut punch that you actually really need. So naturally that means I love their work a lot. And John Foreman is actually one of my favorite writers. My biggest writing inspirations are actually musicians. This is funny, 1 disc, 2 experiences, but guess what? There's actually 0 discs. So I thought that was funny. This one has The Shadow Proves the Sunshine, which is fantastic and is also a track that I used to write a short story in high school in a creative writing class. We all had to pick a song and make a story, and I think I kind of cheated because I knew a bit of John's inspiration behind the song to begin with. So it was not very hard to come up with a story, but it was a lot of fun, and I think I might have even mailed it to them, ? So there's a potential that they read it at some point, back when you could actually like mail artists things and there was a way to do that. I feel like that's not a thing anymore, which is kind of a bummer because I just love physical mail. I feel like it just like warms your heart. But yeah, this album is just very them. Here's Oh Gravity. This is a great one. And if you've not heard American Dream, I was just listening to it on repeat like a week ago, and it's very relevant politically, especially for my people who love the Hunger Games. So please listen to American Dream. Let Your Love Be Strong is fantastic, and John and his solo project also covered that same worship song. Very profound, very thorough in its worship lyrics, and there he was in another hat and his fedora, and there, as you can see, are my sister's initials, because most of these were hers. Hello Hurricane, another great example of the California influence, but this is probably my favorite Switchfoot album, including the title track. Needle and Haystack Life is so good. That is the opening track, and if I could urge you to listen to any of Switchfoot, I would say please pick up Hello Hurricane. I love a gritty, resilient battle. That is exactly what this album is, and that's exactly what Forget and Not Slow Down is. So, as you can tell, a lot of my favorite music and favorite albums are a lot about becoming stronger mentally through hardship, and that is something I just believe very firmly. The more we avoid hardship, the less we grow and learn and become more confident. I feel like the confidence I have nowadays is because of the hardship I've gone through and showing to myself that I can do it and I can get through it. Vice Verses is also fantastic. I feel like I just only have 3 adjectives to use for all of these. I don't want to be too repetitive because, again, we're showing so many of their albums. But these, actually, this is random, but speaking of the Hunger Games, after I watched the first movie, I started conjuring up what I would want as a soundtrack for Catching Fire. And I put like 4 Switchfoot songs on. I think I only put Switchfoot songs, actually. And so a lot of Vice Verses were like my ideal Catching Fire soundtrack songs. So if you're curious what that would be, go listen to Vice Verses. One of them's called Thrive, and it's like, I want to thrive, not just survive. I was like, this is so Hunger Games coded. This is where the light shines through, and I love that it's so sunny getting to show this album off. These, now we're getting into the ones I actually bought myself, because these are much newer. This one, I believe, was like during college, because I associate it with working at a coffee shop. And yeah, I would just listen to this almost every day. The whole reason I have a huge CD collection is I love listening to songs in the car, which, as you can imagine, I can only do because I have an old car. And I think one of the things I dread most in life is a day when I won't have a CD player in my car, so I'm probably going to prolong that as much as possible. And worst comes to worst, I will probably just buy myself a CD player if all else fails and I have no other choice. But yeah, looking for America, they have a lot of good meditations on America throughout their discography, either directly or indirectly, and I like how they're always trying to consider culture and what culture needs to hear if you grew up in the US especially. They're not just spiritual, but they're genuinely empathetic in how they approach the types of messages that they give people, and I really appreciate that. And also, I love how artistic that CD is. This is Native Tongue. Fantastic album. This one, I mean, I also just love yellow. It's my favorite color, so I think I'm biased, but I just listened to this last year, like in full, on a long car trip, and I was floored. I hadn't listened to it since came out the very end of college for me, and I forgot how good this album is. It has themes of grief and loss And of course, again, mental health and joy, and as you can see, Joy Invincible, fantastic. But yeah, just kind of the gamut of emotions and highs and lows. And I just appreciate the older, both Matt from Reliant K and John from Switch Forget, the more wisdom they have to pass along, and it just stands the test of time for me. It's so universal, and that's also why I really, really love all of their music. Also, I hope you guys are really enjoying all of the cover art and everything, because it was so much fun to look through all of this with you guys too. And then I added this in just because it's John Foreman's solo album that I have, again, from one of my sisters. He did a 4-part thing, but this one is just fall and winter. So he did a little disc for each season. And speaking of, that'd be fantastic to really dig into in the seasons. I'm someone who loves making seasonal playlists, so missed opportunity to listen to each of these. I need to listen to spring. Oh my goodness. So have we reached the end of Switchfoot? Are we getting into middle school? I think so. Well, the first artist, I think you could probably predict based on childhood. We'll see when they show up. I know they're just about to. They introduced me to my love of rock music. Yep. Here we go. Jonas Brothers. This is the first album that I ever purchased with my own money. And I went to Best Buy and I was so proud of myself. And it's very beaten up now. This is iconic and reminds me of hanging out with my neighbors who were my best friends growing up. And we would go with their parents to house sit and we would just blare this album. We would also blare this album at their house and put like disco balls on and just be feral. All the iconic songs like Burning Up and Love Bug. This is Lines, Vines, and Trying Times, which was their last album before they went on their hiatus. And this one is so underrated, okay? Miley Cyrus, first of all, is on Before the Storm. And it's a fantastic duet with their vocals, Nick and hers vocals, okay? And then the album as a whole, World War III, okay? Coming in with a banger. These are very rock meets jazz songs. Paranoid is so good. I want to listen to it like immediately after this. They're all just so good, and I forgot how much it hits because the jazz elements are just so well done and versatile. And that like surpasses like Teeny Bopper. Like it was so impressive to re-listen to this like last year, I think. And see just the variety of their musicianship on this album. If you think the Jonas Brothers are just okay, I would urge you to listen to that album because it will probably blow your mind and be something you don't expect. And then I had to buy Happiness Begins when they made their comeback in 2019. It was very timely because I was graduating college and they were coming back, and it felt like this weird, like both entering a new season of life and being severely nostalgic at the same time. And this was right when their documentary about their journey as brothers in a band published as well. And yeah, it just felt like the perfect storm of embracing my childlike self while also becoming my own individual post-college and post-academia. So I really felt like we were having our own little coming-of-age moment together, and I got to see them 2 years ago for the first time. I never got to see them when I was little, and I cried a lot, maybe more than any other concert, because it was just like, this is literally where my love of rock music, which is my favorite kind of music, came from. And then we have Grayson Chance. This is Hold On Till the Night, his debut album. I found him because I used to get Girls' Life magazines, and he was featured in there, but also he got huge on Ellen, as a lot of people know, because of his paparazzi cover. So this is his sweet little debut album when his voice was so different than it is now, and I have followed him since the very beginning. Obviously, that's why I have this album. Ironically, this is his only album I have, but if you guys have not heard him, or you haven't heard him since he was a child, his voice is so good, and he's grown into an entirely different voice now that has so much amazing musicality and capabilities that he couldn't when he was a kid. His artistry is so good, and his latest album had everything to do with Greek mythology, and it was just fantastic. I'd never listened to a conceptual album like that before, but he also mirrored it with his personal life and personal things he was going through, and it was just such a cool parallel, so I'd highly encourage you to listen to that album. I feel like he's gonna have new music soon as well. We have All-Star Weekend. Again, I'm a big Disney Channel girl, so this was the band of my life for a couple years, All-Star Weekend. And this is like peak boy band time in my life. Admittedly, though, I had a very idolatrous, unhealthy relationship with this band, so I have not really listened to their music, like, almost at all, other than in, like, maybe a passing shuffle of my boy bands playlist, like, once or twice, and so their music feels like a fever dream to me, very pop techno, if you will, and Dance Forever was the first music video I ever bought on my iPod at the time, and I probably watched that like 500 times. Yeah. And then their second and last album, so bizarre, was All the Way. This one was much more explicit sexually in a way that made me uncomfortable as a kid. And honestly, of my entire collection, I'm just gonna be blunt, I think this is the worst album that I own. It's genuinely not good. The lyricism was just like not good, and in that way I'm like not surprised it was their last album. These songs kind of basically mean nothing. Didn't mean anything, and then, you know, they broke up and it killed my soul, and I thought my world was ending, and then committed my life to Christ. So everything got better after that, because my life was not based around some stupid boys. And then I found Action Item through All-Star Weekend, because they opened for them. As you can see, I got all of their signatures when I bought this album from them at the concert, the All-Star Weekend concert, which, by the way, was my first concert I ever went to. And I also got to meet All-Star Weekend, might I add. But anyway, this is about Action Item. This is The Stronger the Love. This album I would love to re-listen to. Action Item compared to All-Star Weekend is definitely better lyrically, in terms of like impact and longevity of the songs. Somewhere Out There. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think their musical style is just a bit more grounded and natural than All-Star Weekend's ever was. And then their other album I have is Resolution. I can't remember, they had other EPs at least, but yeah, they kind of had a weird band story where they were like doing fantastic, but then they just, I don't know, I think they had so many members that they started wanting to maybe do different things and just kind of fizzled out because they didn't have enough momentum across all the guys. But this case is actually very beautiful. I like all the colors. I like the color blocking going on there. And the CD itself is really pretty, but again, I'm biased. Then we have my it girl in high school, or no, middle school. We're still in middle school, which was Selena Gomez. So this was back originally. She was Selena Gomez in The Scene, okay? And so this was Kiss and Tell, her first album. so much auto-tune. She's come through so much. She's come a long way. But I was there from the beginning. Thank you very much. And she has a really good mixture of artwork. Her fashion is just like popping throughout all of these. This is like peak 2010s fashion, okay? So take note of all of her outfits. I love how she and Benny are like becoming a huge internet thing now, and it's so cool to like see after her complicated journey where she's landed now relationally. I think it's fantastic. And you would never know based on the lack in my collection, but I also really loved Demi Lovato. My favorite album, I think, was this one, A Year Without Rain. And this was the deluxe album, which I vividly remember being so excited to get. My aunt helped me buy it and picked it out for my birthday, I'm pretty sure. And there's a poster inside. I remember I learned Who Says in Spanish because there's also the Spanish version on here, and I was so proud of myself. I loved learning Spanish in middle and high school and did a bit of a refresher in college. Yeah, I love any excuse to practice Spanish. And then also the best part is you can see I'm struggling to open it because I forgot how to open it and was trying on the wrong side of the case, but there's actually an entire documentary in here as well. Like, that is a killer deluxe album, okay? And so I'm pulling out the deluxe CD here so you can see that it's also included. But yeah, this was like peak music video period for Disney Channel when like a ton of new music videos would premiere between shows. And so I remember A Year Without Rain being a huge one and just thinking, oh, she's so gorgeous. And it's true. I don't think I love the design of these lyrics like all in one though. They're like so scrunched together. Sorry, I totally cut her head off there. But yeah, definitely a very iconic Selena Gomez and the Scene album, and probably my favorite. I don't have any of her Selena Gomez albums. Honestly, I don't think I listened to them in their entirety post Selena Gomez and the Scene, so I only know like songs, but not entire albums of hers. And then we have her third and final Selena Gomez and the Scene album, which is, I totally forget what it's called. But I know, oh wait, I think it's called When the Sun Goes Down because that's one of the tracks. And she very much did a vintage Hollywood theme for her wardrobe, and I feel like even some of the tracks she tried to have a little bit more of a vintage sound. There was one track, Whiplash, that has a bit of like westerny elements in it. And then of course Who Says is on here. Yeah, she really went for all of the Lukes in this one, which was honestly iconic. And I really liked when everyone was doing the rock vibes and was really disappointed when a lot of people changed to pop instead, because I've always been a rock girl through and through. So, okay, here we go into Laura Daigle. How Can It Be? She's an iconic worship singer, but I believe I'm into high school now, so my sister made me that album too. As you can see, her legal burning of CDs has not ended. Betty Who, the Movement EP. Okay, listen, I knew Betty Who before she became a thing, and I just want to put that out here. So that only had 4 tracks on it, including Somebody Loves You. And then this was a friend burned me this Hey Violet EP, I Can Feel It. Hey Violet was like the peak band. I was upset, changed to like techno pop. And then we have Echo Smith, their Talking Dreams album, that either my friend burned for me or I might have burned for myself. Clearly we were burning a lot of CDs in high school. And then of course we have One Direction. And please just soak in this beautiful limited edition of Take Me Home. Rest in peace, Liam. We love and miss you, and you were such a fantastic force within One Direction that should not be forgotten. So to all my Directioners out there, please enjoy all of these fun fetus photos of the boys. One Direction was my huge boy band obsession, like so many other people throughout all of high school, and it definitely like amounted to ultimately going to see them with my other favorite boy band, Five Sauce, in Detroit, and that was in 2014. And I remember just being so excited to get tickets, and then everyone lied to me that we were unable to get tickets because my mom wanted to surprise me with them in my stocking, okay? So my friends were lying to me that we didn't get tickets for like a month. And then I found out we got them and probably screamed the loudest I've ever screamed in my life. Proud to be a Directioner. To this day, my talent is always being able to tell you who's singing in a One Direction song, and that's honestly probably my best talent out of all of my talents. So it's like my party trick. Yeah, Niall was always my favorite. I thought his name was Niall because I just was not familiar with Irish pronunciations at all. And so, yeah. So there you go. That's Take Me Home. I had other One Direction albums, but that was back when I would only buy them on iTunes, so I don't have any others. And then, of course, I have to go into 5 Seconds of Summer. I fell off also when they went to more techno pop in my college years, but I have to say I've started watching all the content I missed from them in quarantine to now, and they are so funny and stupid, and I'm like, of course I loved them because that's still my humor, just being stupid. How did anyone take us seriously? I don't know, but I'm so proud that they were like my icons because they're so dumb. And yeah, my humor definitely comes from all the boy bands I loved growing up because they all consistently have awkward and dumb humor, and that's exactly who I am as a person. There we have the deluxe edition that I got of their first album. And I am a heartbreak girl. Speaking of Spanish, I had a presentation and shared about 5 Seconds of Summer, and I learned how to sing the chorus of Heartbreak Girl in Spanish, and I still could for you. Dedico esta canción a tú, la una que nunca ve la verdad, que yo te tomo su dolor, la chica que rompo mi corazón. And then we have Sounds Good, Feels Good. Yes. This one was peak freshman year in college for me. Jet Black Heart, I would listen to a billion times. Funnily enough, it also reminds me of my first on-campus job where I would listen to it over and over, probably to the irritation of my supervisor and coworkers while I worked in the bakery, like putting a bunch of granola bars on trays and stuff. Yeah, this album was a time and a half. The first of Five Sauce music I ever bought was that first EP that had She Looks So Perfect on it. But yeah, this one to me, I liked a lot more musically, and I always love a good outro track, and Carry On is something I love. I was like, wow, they're so deep lyrically. I picked the right band. So now we're gonna get into my S tier, okay? These are like all my second favorite artists, okay? So as you just saw her pop up, you know the first one already, and that is none other than the one and only beautiful, and oh, just kidding, whoa, curveball. Okay, I forgot that Hamilton was in here. So now we're in my college time. Yeah, I don't know who bit that, but there you go. Someone got hungry, and I was a Hamilton girl, just like everyone else. And to this day, I still don't have the entire second half memorized, but I can sing just about the entire first half. So my favorite thing to do when I was home alone over the summer at my parents' was belt Hamilton at the top of my lungs. My neighbors probably disliked me a little bit. I don't think I need to explain what Hamilton is about, but yeah, I remember listening to it for the first time in my dorm room and just being amazed that hip-hop was combined with a musical, which I'd never heard before, but I'm sure it's been done before. I've just only honestly gotten into like a handful of musicals, but the musicals I have gotten into, I've become obsessed with. So when I like a musical, I love a musical. And yeah, I got to see Hamilton for the first time with my mom in Chicago, and I got Aaron Burr to sign my A. Burr hat because Leslie Odom Jr. is my favorite, but obviously he was not there, so I got the second best thing, which was the Aaron Burr that was there. Right, so like I said, Niall's my favorite, so I have Flicker, and the title track actually is very significant for me spiritually, and I wrote a whole blog post on it on my blog back in like 2018 because I saw him in 2018, and basically he is also a big symbol of idolatry for me, and God really redeemed him and that song for me at his concert. He had this moment where he told everyone to put their phones away and close their eyes and even pray. He said, even pray if you want to. And when I opened my eyes, I just saw him as someone as real as my dad. And that might sound like no duh, but it's like, no, but you don't realize how thick I was in idolatry. And that was a big deal. Yeah. So God really used Niall's concert to bring me closer to him. And I went and saw him this past summer, and I love his album, The Show. I was very proud of that album, even though I don't have it physically. So then I also have one of Harry's albums. This one is Fine Line, which again, along with my theme of being obsessed with a fantastic final track, Sunflower Volume 6 is my other favorite. It's like sunshine in a bottle, truly. And Canyon Moon was like a musical twist I didn't expect for him, but very much embraced. The art on this album is interesting. It's definitely his most out there. I will also say for Harry, even though it's not about this specific album, my favorite album of his is also Harry's House. So both Niall and Harry have been very impressed with how they outdo themselves with every album. And P.S. I'm gonna proceed to not show you the naked Harry photo from this because I knew it was coming. Yeah, but it's so fun to see an artist really understand and find their voice and then get good at showing what their exact voice is. I think that's when you know any artist has really made it. This is the band The Regrets. This is called How Do You Love? And rest in peace to The Regrets. They're actually no longer as of last year, which was super disappointing because I loved their work so much. But this one I believe was their debut album, and yeah, it's equated to like fresh new love for me, as you can imagine, even just from the themes itself of the album. But again, really beautiful color scheme here for all the band members. Very indie rock, but also a little bit punky at the same time. I love Lydia's vocals. She's really good at angst and punk and sass, and I feel like we don't have enough of those types of vocalists in the limelight right now. So yeah, I would say you guys should listen to them if you enjoy some sass and indie rock, and yeah, just a simple but fun and colorful CD. I learned one of the dances from their music videos that they were teaching people, and it was a lot of fun. Then, along this same indie rock vein, we have Honey. Yes, 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 yes. This is a little EP that really solidified my niche being indie rock. Like, I kind of knew it already because of one of my other favorite bands. But this EP specifically really emphasized, like, no, like, if I ever want to work in music, it's going to be in the indie rock field, because all of these artists are very dorky in a way that I deeply, deeply resonate with. Something about me is I don't just know and appreciate musicians' artwork, but I also know and appreciate and love what they show of themselves. Either super funny, super dorky, or super introspective, and I respect all of those things a lot. Oh, we have a naked butt. It's Dispatch. This is one of the bands I actually got to hear for the first time when I did a music internship at a venue for summer concerts, and they were like, you can pay whatever you want to buy this album. So I think I paid like $2. And it's very folky and fun and summery. And they have this song that always cracks me up because it's like talking about Skin the Rabbit. And I'm like, this is the most Pacific Northwestern song that I've ever heard. Like, it's just not something I relate to at all. But definitely makes sense that they come from the Pacific Northwest. But this is always a fun summery album, and folk in general is very summery for me, so it's super fun to put on. Oh, there we have the fun little CD. But yeah, it's an album that kind of comes and goes in my CD cycles, but it usually just comes out in the summertime, honestly. Like, I'm very much a mood listener and reader. Then, of course, because I am like all the other girls, the Pride and Prejudice soundtrack. This one I found for like $1 or $2 at a book sale, which sounds ironic, but they also had media to buy. And this is the best when I just want no lyrics and I just want to like have some good prayer time in the car. I've used this aplenty. This album is actually also like the #1 music that has gotten me through long-form creative writing. So the two novel rough drafts I've written in my life and the one I'm currently rewriting would be nothing, truly, without this entire soundtrack. It's so iconic, and this movie is so iconic, and Keira Knightley is one of my favorite actresses. We love a good petite woman who represents, because that's can be so rare, okay? Then we have Judah and the Lion. This album is so good. Pep talks. It got me through my quarter-life crisis, which is one of the tracks, and really young to mid-20s. I would not be who I am and would not have healed nearly as much as I did through trauma without this album. It was monumental in that, and it is rock, but it's folk, but it's pop, but it's all of those things combined. So if you like really alternative amalgamations of music, you're gonna really like this one. But again, it's also very much my vibe of, we're not just gonna listen to music, but we're gonna learn and we're gonna grow, and 7,000 times is so good. It's about always getting up again, no matter how many times you've been knocked down. This album is so gritty, and it's so emotional, and sports is just goofy. There's like splashes of goofiness in the midst of everything, and as you can tell, I just really love color blocking as well, and so all of these color blocked albums are so fun to look at. And then we have Cat Stevens, T for the Tillerman. My favorite movie is Harold and Maude, and Cat Stevens does the whole soundtrack, and some of the songs are on this album, which is why I wanted it, and my brother got it for me Christmas before this past one, and he is just fantastic. I mean, both my brother and Cat Stevens, but Cat Stevens is such a chill dude, hippie era. But, he's been doing fantastic things ever since in my world. He helped do music for Remember the Titans. But, yeah, I think he's just a very calming being And I also associate his music with running, because for a while I would run almost exclusively to his music. I don't know, his music reminds me of nature, and I think maybe that's why, because I only like running outside. It's also mainly when I'm in the car that I listen to him. Here we have Seamus Egan. This, I don't actually know Seamus at all, but I'm Irish and I love anything from Ireland, so I found this at a thrift bookshop and said, I need this. I need some trad music. And so I bought it. Short and simple, right? Very straightforward. I love Irish music so much. It makes me so happy. It makes me feel immediate ease from the homesickness of missing Ireland. It's weird to say I feel homesick for somewhere it's not actually home, but in a way it is home because that's where my great grandma's from. So, yeah. I love the Irish so much. They're so sweet. This is actually my favorite album of all time. Even though it's not from one of my favorite artists. Milo Xyloto is easily also my favorite Coldplay album, but this album, simply put, just feels like magic to me. And I bought this when I went to Amoeba Records in Hollywood. Going to California was a dream come true as well, and so it felt appropriate that I was in the music store of one of my favorite bands, that I would also buy my favorite album of all time in that very music store, in a state that was a traveling dream come true. It really was. I loved being there just because I love musicians so much, and I just knew so many of them felt near, literally, geographically, and so it just felt like magic being there. And I listened to this album and my entire airplane departure to go over there, and to this day, anytime I put it on, it just feels like magic. They have some of their most popular songs on here. Every Teardrop is a Waterfall and Paradise, but all the other songs are fantastic too. And again, it's that great juxtaposition of hope and heartbreak, and then hope through the heartbreak. That is very much like the theme that I deeply resonate with. Resilience is key. Resilience is key to all of the artwork that I love. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we've gotten to the S tier. I mean, that's my favorite album ever, so it might as well be in the S tier. But these are all my second favorite artists. The first artist is Dodie, and it's so cute because the two collections of hers I have are both signed by her, and she's the artist I love who's the furthest away, and I just find that so endearing. So this is her EPU, her little heart there, and her Sharpie. Dodie I watched first on YouTube, like a lot of other people, and then just fell in love with her music. And then her debut full-length album was Build a Problem, which, as you can see, she also signed with a little heart again. So cute. I was so proud of this album. It shows her love of symphonic music. It shows her deep struggles with anxiety and depression and disassociation and trauma. And it also has her songs, her little ditties that she wrote throughout the month of April leading up to that album, which are all the B-sides. And those are also fantastic. I'm always blown away by her, like, B-sides, quote-unquote, like, rough songs, and how fantastic they still are. And Dodie's probably the most comprehensive when it comes to mental health struggles within her music, because she's gone through so many different mental health struggles herself. And so, as someone who loves mental health, I would definitely point to her as validating most mental health struggles and illnesses that you may experience in your life. She is so good at processing everything so precisely. I don't know if you can tell, I'm a lyrics person. So when I think and talk about this music, I think of the lyrics first and foremost, but she can really make you feel everything under the sun, and yeah, she just makes me smile. Watching her live was so fun. They just had this joy emanating off of them, as in her and her entire band, the entire time, that I've never seen from any other live musician. I can't explain it. It's like music gives them the joy to be. And it just emanates from their live performance. And her live performance also solidified that she is so true to discovering and expressing all of her emotions. She expressed every emotion during her live performance, and it was very admirable as a very emotional person myself that she was not shying away from a single emotion. So she was definitely very fun to watch, and I would highly recommend if you ever get the chance to see her live. Such a sweet, soft-spoken soul. I love having the soft-spoken girls represent me. Yep, here's my queen. It is Billie. How do I even describe my love for Billie? I don't think I can. This is when we all fall asleep. Where do we go? I appreciate how confident she is in her visions, how distinctive each of her albums is, in mood, in color, obviously, and Billie just amazes me in the way that she has grown up and matured with so many people watching her. And as you'll see, there were some extra tidbits in here. Some little stickers that I will never use because those are just not my aesthetic at all. But if you like creepy things, you'll definitely want those stickers. I honestly forgot those were in there. But she usually likes to put a little something in there as an extra. That album helped me through a lot of grief, confusion over like newfound cynicism. It's hard to really say what I mean without going into too many specifics, but funny thing is she said this album was inspired a lot by the Babadook, and I don't do horror, but I watched that one with a huge group of people, and that was the movie. It was only a couple years ago. I went home and I started crying, and I could not go to sleep for a very, very long time, and could not even turn the lights off for a very long time. So proof that I cannot consume any type of horror movies. Happier than ever, okay? I almost never use this sleeve, but it's a bit beaten up. Again, just a very distinct new vision, but as she said, it was a fart album. Not her best work, but I thought it was fantastic at the time. Happier Than Ever itself as a track got me through my deepest anger and the multiple traumas that I've been through in my life, and was very much a release of anger that I had always needed and never felt the empathy and validation to express. So that song really meant a lot to me. Her blonde hair phase, iconic. I feel like that preceded Barbie and everything. But yeah, I really like how she touched on body image in this album. I feel like she always weaves in some themes that people might overlook, but she's always very intentional about not just writing for herself, but making a bigger impact, I think. I also just want to say that Billie and Phineas's dynamic is one that I really, really appreciate, and I love seeing how much siblings have love for one another, represented in a public space and in a fame space even. It just makes me really happy. I love how tight their entire family is, and again, just very grounded people that I appreciate a lot for being authentically themselves. It's been so fun to see Billie, again, grow into herself and be unafraid to do so in front of an unprecedented amount of people. So then, of course, we have to move along to her latest album, which is definitely my favorite, Hit Me Hard and Soft. Yes, I think it deserved a bunch of Grammys. This album, similar to the Niall and Harry Sentiments, is the most Billie album she's ever made, and it's just so fun. I think I've probably already said this, but to see people really hone what their unique voice is, and she really is the color blue, and I love that she depicted herself that way because it's very like self-aware and accurate. I love all of the tracks on this, but I did love Birds of a Feather a lot, and it really like made me feel peak giddiness to hear that for the first time. I love listening to albums I'm highly anticipating, like for the first time at midnight, and this is one of those. So I experienced it first and cried with Skinny, the opening track. She also paint splattered some covers, and so I got one of those editions with the paint splatter, which was super special. And then I believe this is my final second level favorite band, and that is my rep, Michigander. This is his EP, Where Do We Go From Here? He's obviously much less known than Billie, but no less incredible at what he does. He did move to Nashville, but I guess I can forgive him. And I love that I have this EP because this question is how he starts his track in his debut album that just came out. So I love when artists do that and have like little Easter eggs back to their own music. Super fun. He is like classic Midwest rock, just like Switchfoot and We're Like Hey, but a more modern, not modern, I shouldn't say that because they're still very relevant, but a younger millennial version. And so this is Michigander, his self-titled debut album that he spent many years working towards. I'm very grateful that I got to be around since day one when he released 2 songs on Spotify. There's only 2 bands I can say I've ever been around since the beginning, and I'm so proud that he is one of them. Please go listen to his album. He has a great track about being American on the first track of his debut album. So here we go. One of my favorite bands is Wallows. And like I said, they're kind of what opened up my world to my love for indie rock, including The Regrets and Honey. This vinyl has their tracks Are You Bored Yet? And Scrawny. It is a 7-inch, and it's simple but cute. Wallows is the other band that I found since day one because, like so many other people, I watched 13 Reasons Why and just had to keep up with whatever Dylan Minnette was doing, and he said his band was going to start coming out with music, and so I followed along. This is their debut album, Nothing Happens, and to this day is the album that has carried me really through my 20s. The first track is Only Friend, and it loops with the last track, Do Not Wait, and those also happen to be my 2 favorite songs, so you know it's good when you love the first and the last song. And I love Cole, Braden, and Dylan so much. They are super, super dorky, and I took way too long trying to open this to show you the little secret photo on the inside, so I cut it there. But yeah. I'm pretty sure it's Braden dangling from the basketball hoop. But yeah, they really represent me well. We're the same age, and I just really feel like they encapsulate my humor. They encapsulate my mental growth and emotional growth that I've had. Something that's so fun to watch from them is how they've really processed growing within their lyrics. You can really see their 20s playing out across their discography, which is so relatable, and it's so up and down, and Nugget is the cutest. But Nothing Happens is such an ode to being anywhere in your 20s, and I'm so proud that it is an album that has withstood the test of time. I am quite confident when I look back at the end of my life, I will remember Wallows as a huge piece of being in my 20s, and so proud that they got to be the soundtrack to a monumental, formative decade of my life. And I love that they had all handwritten lyrics in there. Very unique, very iconic, and they worked on the songs in that album for years and years and years since they were tweens. So it was definitely a long time coming. Fun fact, Dylan was a musician way before he was an actor. So that's also why he's going towards music now instead of acting. Then we have the Remote EP. The biggest reason I bought this was because it was during COVID and I wanted to support my favorite artists. So I did. I also learned the virtual aerobics dance that they did in their music video. There's a theme of me learning dances from indie rock bands. Yeah, super bright 90s vibes here. Yeah, this EP honestly just mainly reminds me of COVID. It's wild how many memories you can tie to music. It's wild, but it's also not surprising. And so all of these have like very distinct times in my life. Can't say this one has like stood the test of time for me. Like, I'll put it on in shuffle, but it's not nearly as impactful as Nothing Happens was for me. This EP is also much more like electronic in feel compared to probably any of their other music, honestly. So it's just a lot different than any of the other stuff they've done. But not bad. Just like not most representative of their vibes, I guess I would say. Wish Me Luck is my favorite off that album as well. And then we have Tell Me That It's Over, which is also a very much beloved and monumental album in my life a few years ago. And of course, I love the Pale Yellow Palette. This one is very 80s meets present day. I think they're very good at interweaving their favorite decades of music, types of music, and favorite bands, while also very much having their distinctive style. Like their brand new EP that just came out is very much their love of the Beatles and the Strokes, but it's them. Like, it's absolutely those influences, but it's 100% them at the same time. And I don't know how to explain that, but they translate their own flavor from their favorite artists so well. And anyway, Tell Me That It's Over is very much like an album on insecurity and working through insecurities. So it was an album I really needed in an insecure period of my life. And the music video for At the End of the Day is probably my favorite, most beautiful Wallows music video. I love the aesthetics in that one, and it's really just about Braden zoning out a lot among his friends, and I relate to that a lot as someone who's very in their heads. And then we have my favorite band, which is 21 Pilots. So this is Vessel, the one vinyl of theirs I have. Again, sorry, totally cut all of them off. I mostly apologize to their grandpas because I'm sure they don't care, but I care that I cut their grandpas off. This is probably their most universally across the fandom beloved album. Very iconic tracks. Migraine has gotten me through so much with spiritual warfare and just emotional mental angst. But yes, for those of you who don't know, I host and run a 21 Pilots podcast called In Trench, and it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Music, it's on Verbal, it's on Podbean, it's on pretty much everything. and I've been doing it for 5 years now. And I go song by song, including music videos through their entire discography, and analyze their music through a Christian lens to show how they can be used as a spiritual tool just as much as prayer or scripture. And that's exactly how they've impacted my life, and that's exactly why I made the podcast, because I would really not be who I am without them. I would not have the amount of faith that I have without them. Their mental resilience is like the number one reason why I believe I will get through whatever. Like, just plain and simple. Trench is one of my favorite albums. Trench is the album Tyler wanted to do all by himself and produce all by himself, and it's fantastic. If you don't know, this is the album that began an entire fantasy world that 21 Pilots created. So if you used to listen to 21 Pilots but don't anymore, you guys, I have yet to find anything of this caliber where an artist made an entire fantasy world in the form of music. Like, that's a billion less words than writing a novel. It's so impressive, and the entire story plays out through a combination of their lyrics, their written content, which is like a website, and some letters that have now been combined into an extra for their newest album, and then through their music videos. And they have a whole playlist called The Story or something like that on their YouTube. So go watch it, because it's incredible to watch this fantasy world unfold. We're on a huge cliffhanger right now, so join us. This is Skilled and Icy. This was their pop album that no one expected, which is funny that it's like bubblegum pop colors, right? It's a pop album. This is the most upbeat album, but simultaneously like falsely upbeat, or like what's the word? Like misleadingly upbeat. As you can tell, Trash, the dragon, was like a huge component of the vibes here. And they even changed their logo to the little trident thing, which I'm pretty sure is just an E with a slash through it. But they have a lyric called East is Up, so it's pointed upward. So there you go. They have this phrase called the few, the proud, the emotional. And so that's what the E is for. You're welcome. Yeah, but the whole reason that this is a pop album also has everything to do with the lore and the fantasy world. So please get on that info and join our story and our partay. Really, it's no surprise that 21 Pilots is my favorite band, because they are the definition of resilience. They represent my internal world emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. And oh my goodness, I'm so proud of Tyler and Josh and the fact that we are spiritual siblings. So proud. I think we also just have very similar upbringings, and that makes me really biased. I don't know, us Midwest kids just like have to stick together, right? Oh my gosh, they're the biggest, least known band ever, and they're just my favorite. I love that they just kind of have all the musical elements, and what they have more than anything is the ability to make people find hope and look beyond themselves, and that's so needed. This here is the MTV Unplugged disc. This was actually, I think, maybe the first time we saw Josh sing in a performance preceding their newest album. And something I love, Tyler Joseph is my biggest writing inspiration. I would give him a Nobel Prize in literature. Hot take, maybe, for some people who think it should only be authors, but he's so good at reinventing his songs, especially his most popular songs like Stressed Out. The way he reinvented Stressed Out on their last tour was phenomenal, And the pyrotechnics obviously did not hurt either. But I'm astounded by the amount of creativity he has. He could give every song he's ever written like 50 trillion different versions if he had to. And I'm just astounded by the amount of creativity that is just like bursting out of him all of the time. And Josh is just the most faithful, persistent drummer and such a loyal friend. And I just think they're two fantastic people who deserve every little bit of everything they've been given. And it's so fun to just see them do their thing and just feel so confident that, like, this is what they were born to do. Truly. More than anyone I know. Yeah, I love Billy and 21 Pilots because they really put the art in being an artist. And it just makes me so happy. And then here we have Clancy, which is their newest album. That is my new favorite. It topped Trench, and you'll see why I don't have it in its cover very soon. But yeah, that is all of my music collection, and there's obviously much more I could go in depth with all of my artists and their songs, but that's also why we have so much more content. We can make more in-depth thoughts on everything, but I hope this gives you a little more insight into the type of music that I like, the types that you could maybe recommend to me, and yeah, ultimately with all art, as you can see, I'm not one to escape, but I like to lean in and not be afraid of all of the hard things, and you know, sometimes life might blow out your light, but actually you can be lit again. dumb parallel because of the candle. But there you go. I am so happy to talk with you guys always, and I hope you have a great week. And yeah, here's my awkward little wave, and I will see you soon. And Nugget loves you.